The most important shot in pickleball is the first one, so having an arsenal of serves at your disposal changes your game.
That's why we're going to show you the top 6 pickleball serves to help you dominate the point right from the start. But first, let's talk about Extra, who sponsored this video.
You know how in pickleball, fast hands make all the difference? Well, why can't your wallet be just as fast? The Extra Pro makes accessing your cards faster than ever.
First off, the Extra Pro wallet is built to last. Your typical wallet wears out every year, but Extra uses premium Italian leather and a recycled aluminum mechanism, which means no plastic and no weak points. And the best part is it has a lifetime warranty, so this is literally the last wallet you'll ever need.
And our favorite feature is whenever you do need a card, it pops up instantly once you pull the trigger, so no more digging around for your stuff like you're trying to pick up a pickleball.
I got it.
It's slim too. It holds up to 14 cards and the closure flap actually stays put too. Plus, if you want to add cash or maybe their finder card, it fits really easily with the strap they have built in.
And Extra has a huge summer primetime sale going on right now, which means up to 32% off all of their products.
If you use our code CRACKEDPICKLEBALL, you get an additional 10% off that 32% happening right now. That's 42% off. It's a great deal. Check out the link in our description and grab one for yourself. Now let's get back to some serves.
Our first serve is the Deceptive Out Wide serve. And now I'm sure you've probably hit this before, but we're going to give you some tips you can integrate into your game to really take this serve to the next level. So one thing people usually don't consider on their serves is where they're standing on the baseline whenever they hit it. One thing that Caleb and I like to do is stand on the very far side of the court, and whenever you do this, you open up this short corner angle. So I'm talking about hitting a serve from this corner that lands in the short corner of the court while my opponent is standing all the way back there at their baseline. If you can hit this spot consistently, it's really difficult for them to get to it, and crucially, it opens up opportunities for a different type of serve in the future, which we'll show you in a second. The first key element to this serve is that you don't have to hit it very hard. We're mainly going for placement here, so you want to laser focus on getting it to land where you want it to land, not so much getting it there as fast as possible. And so because of that, I like to stand as close to this line as I possibly can. And then really, I'm just hitting almost like a half drive motion to get this ball to land in that short corner. My hope is that because I hit the first serve to that short corner, the next time I line up closer to the sideline, my opponent also shades over to their sideline because they're expecting the short corner again. And whenever you see them move over, it opens up the opportunity to hit the down the middle shot from this exact same position. So this is why this serve is so effective, is because from this exact same position, I can hit a really aggressive short corner serve and a really aggressive down the middle serve. And then based off what my opponent does, it opens up opportunities for both of those serves. I like to hit this serve a little bit different than the other one. On the short corner, I'm going for placement. On this one, I'm going more for power. My hope is that since my opponent has shaded over, their backhand is now a lot more vulnerable. So I don't have to hit the dead middle. I just have to get it kind of close to make sure this ball goes to their backhand. That's the aim for this shot. I've been playing pickleball for a long time, and this is definitely one of the serves that I've gotten the most points on. So make sure you add it to your game, and Caleb's going to tell us about serve number 2.
For serve number 2, we've got one of the most underrated serves in pickleball. We all like to hit fancy serves or power serves that put pressure on our opponents, but sometimes the most important serve in pickleball is the one that goes in. Whenever you're feeling like you're under a lot of pressure, or maybe you're not as consistent for some reason, having a serve that is simpler and easier, that is guaranteed to go in, is a huge advantage for yourself on the court because you have to get the point started in order to be able to win it. But the problem is when players decide they just want to get the ball in with a serve, they hit something really simple like this. That kind of serve that just goes in is often very easily attackable and puts you at a disadvantage at the start of the point. So instead, I want to give you a serve that is also very consistent, but still puts enough pressure on your opponent to not give them a free attack off of the first shot. That's why I'm going to teach you All Reliable, otherwise known as the topspin serve. This shot kind of comes from tennis because in tennis, we have a first serve and a second serve, and the second serve we want it to go in. But in tennis, we don't just hit a simple soft serve. I used to hit what is called a kick serve, which means I'm just adding topspin to the ball so that it's more likely to go into the court. But on top of that, the ball bounces and then spins into my opponent's body, making it a bit tougher than had I just hit a dead ball. So we're gonna do the equivalent in pickleball, which is just a topspin underhand serve. The key with this serve is we wanna get the ball in front of us. We want to hit from an exaggerated low to high motion that adds a lot of spin to the ball. It's very, very simple because we're not going for a lot of pace necessarily. We just want the placement to be deep, and the spin itself will allow the ball to dip back into the court, making it much more consistent than had I hit a flat ball. The only other point I like to emphasize with the serve, it does require more head speed than you might be thinking, because in order to generate enough spin for the ball to dip back into the court, you do need to swing fast enough in order to generate that spin. But instead of your head speed translating to more power, it's translating to more spin, which is what makes this so consistent. Let me show you what it looks like. You might notice that unlike other serves, where I finish across my body, for this one, I almost like to finish in an exaggerated motion out to the right side of my body. The reason why is because, again, I'm not trying to generate this big amount of spin using the full force of my body. I'm simply trying to lift in a very low to high motion, and that just brings my paddle straight up, which is in this direction. I love this serve because it does still kick at our opponents. It's extremely likely to go in because it has all of that topspin, which allows it to dip into the court. And for me, it's the most reliable one in the bag, especially when I'm feeling like there's a lot of pressure on the serve, or maybe my power serve is less consistent that day. I definitely recommend having a consistent serve like this. That's why we wanted to include it.
Our next serve is a continuation from the last one. This one's a topspin deep bounce serve. Now I'm gonna do this a little bit different than you've probably seen before. So we're gonna have the exact same setup as what Caleb just showed you, but instead this time, we're gonna hit it a little bit harder, but the really important part is to hit it just a little bit higher as well. So we're trying to get this ball to not go so close to the net as it crosses. I want it to go pretty high, but not so much that we would consider it a lob serve, because when this ball goes higher, whenever it hits the ground, it'll also bounce higher, and that's what we're trying to do. Because our opponent has to let the ball bounce before they return it, if I can get this ball to land really deep in the court and bounce high, it makes this person as the returner have to do a chicken wing motion to get the ball back. It's just a really awkward spot to defend and try to return a ball from. So in this serve, very similar to what Caleb just showed you, except now a little bit higher and a little bit harder. In this serve specifically, I like to take one step backwards. It just gives me a little bit more room to work with. With this one, I'm almost thinking like I'm just hitting the ball back to someone on the other side of the net that's asking for it, but I'm gonna add a considerable amount of spin and power. It looks like this. Unlike the serve that we just covered, the all reliable, this one's a little bit more inconsistent because we're aiming so far back in the court. Sometimes you will hit the ball out, but that's just a risk that you have to be willing to take if you're trying to make your serve a weapon. One of the best times to use this serve is when you notice your opponent standing really close to the baseline when they're trying to return. Most advanced players know it makes a lot of sense to stand back here whenever they're receiving a return, but if you can catch someone as they're standing up here, this is the perfect time to hit the serve. Pretty much any serve that we covered today, if you can hit this back line or close to it, it's going to make your opponent have to back up whenever they're returning. And if they're backing up, they're moving away from where they want to eventually be, which is the kitchen line. That's why it's so crucial to have a deep serve in your arsenal.
Now, this wouldn't be a serve video if we didn't teach you the power serve. Sometimes the best serve is simply the fastest because speed is really hard to react and respond to, so we want to take advantage of it when it comes to starting off the point. But instead of just teaching you a traditional fast serve, I want to give you some very specific tips that will add just that extra couple miles per hour to your serve and actually give you a pretty big advantage over your opponents. These are all the tips I use to create the fastest serve that I can, so hopefully this is going to help you. Let's do it. The first incredibly simple way to add a bit of extra pace to your speed is to reduce the travel time of the ball in the air. So there's two ways we can do this. First of all, we pick the right target. If I start from the tee right here on the court and I aim for the opposite tee on the other side of the court, during the serve, the ball will have the shortest path of travel possible that I can create. The reason that's important is because the less time the ball spins in the air, the more power we're able to create. The ball naturally slows down as it travels, so we want to get extra advantage by aiming right down the tee. The other important part of this is we want to aim deep, because as soon as a ball makes contact with the ground, it is going to lose some of its momentum that we applied to it. That's why if we're able to get the ball to bounce close to the back line like this, it's going to lose the least amount of momentum after it takes a bounce and make it extremely difficult on our opponents. But you probably noticed that aiming for the tee and deep is going to be pretty risky. That's why we don't always recommend a power serve, and we kind of suggest starting off just going for a deep shot rather than necessarily right down the tee. It also depends a bit on the context of where your opponent is standing. But in general, if you just want pace, down the tee and deep is the fastest target to aim for. The next thing you've probably heard to add power to your serve is to put your entire body into the swing. But a lot of people are confused on the actual best way to do that. The transition of your body's weight into your serve actually comes through the hips. It occurs when we do something called snapping our hips closed when we make contact. So if I were to stand still, chest forward, and hit a serve like this, I'm using all of my arm right now to create all the power because I'm not transitioning my body's weight with my hips. Whereas instead, if I start with more of an open stance with my right foot back and during the serve, snap my hips closed, I'm able to bring my body's momentum into the swing, which then allows me to generate a lot more power because I'm literally adding more weight into the ball. Let me show you what that looks like. Snapping your hips closed is the best way to generate momentum. But there's one other small trick that I want to show you that a lot of people don't mention that I do think is an extra way to add even more pace on top of all of these tips. The last thing is applying the concept of a whip into your serve. A whip, when you swing it, is incredibly powerful because at the last second when the whip snaps, it creates the fastest amount of force possible. We can actually create a similar motion using our wrist. So when we go through with the swing, if I position my wrist backwards a bit before I make contact and snap it closed when I feel my body's momentum, I'm able to treat it like a whip and apply even more power. I want to note though, this is an advanced tip and I really don't recommend it if you're not super consistent with the hip snapping motion to begin with, but this is kind of an extra layer that we add power and it's called pronation in pickleball. If you want to practice this and improve at it, I recommend hitting the ball without the hip snap motion just to get a bit of consistency with the wrist snap. It looks a bit like that. I'm taking the ball and I'm snapping it closed at the end. And then when I'm ready to add the full momentum, I'm going to apply the hips as well. So here's the full thing. Again, this isn't meant for consistency. This is just meant for raw power. I'm able to generate my entire body's weight into that ball and also snap it at the end. This really is the maximum way to achieve power. So I hope you learned a couple things if you're looking for more speed on your serve.
We're about to show you one of the simplest serves, but we actually have a game-breaking serve at the very end, so make sure you stick around. Our next serve is the lob serve. Now, I know you've definitely done this before or you've had it done to you, and you know just how frustrating this serve is to return. The first technique point you have to know here is you have to get below the ball, because we want to really rely on our hips and our shoulder to hit this ball high rather than our wrist. The lob serve is a very effective serve when you do it the right way. But if you do it out of control, it's really easy to hit this ball out of bounds or to hit it too high. In a lob serve, it's not about hitting it as high as possible. There is a certain point where you're hitting it too high. The higher you hit the ball, the higher it bounces. So if you hit it too high, you're just giving your opponent a really easy return that they can be aggressive on. The ideal height for this ball to bounce is somewhere around their chin, chest, head height, somewhere around here. So if you find your ball bouncing higher than that, you're definitely hitting it too high. Just like in the last serve that I taught you, I like to take a step back from the baseline just to give me a little bit more room to work with. And the most important part of this serve is your paddle angle. Because we're trying to mainly use our hips and our shoulders for this serve, if your paddle angle is not correct, you're going to hit it out of bounds. The really simple way to get set up for this is just to simply take your paddle, point it at your opponent, but then leave it a little bit higher towards the sky and then get low and then literally just hit straight up on the ball like that. In the follow through of this serve, you don't really want to go across your body. We're trying to generate top spin, if any spin. So you want to go straight up. Once again, because this paddle angle doesn't change, you really don't have a lot of room to manipulate the spin of the ball to try to keep it as true as you possibly can. And this might go without saying, but the absolute best time to use this serve is when your team has game point. At the very end of the game, when your opponents are likely getting tight and they're getting nervous, you want to hit this ball high and give them a lot of time to think about what they're going to do before they hit the ball back to you. It's likely you've been a victim of this yourself, but when you have so much time to think about the ball and it's a really crucial moment of the match, it's easy just to tense up and then not hit a good return back. And this lob serve might not result in a direct winner, but very often people just have a bad return when they hit it back to you. For some reason, whenever you hit a lob serve, people tend to lob the return back to you, which is perfect because it sets you up for a really easy third shot. So add this shot to your arsenal and try it out next time you have game point.
The final serve we have for you is the classic slice serve, but we're going to show you a different method to hit it that actually bends the rules of pickleball itself. Let me show you what I mean. When you think of a slice serve, you might think of dropping the ball and then taking it out of the air and hitting an undercut motion like this. And while that's very effective for generating spin, it's very difficult to generate pace on top of that spin. That's why there's another method we're going to show you that's a little bit different. It allows you to do something pretty cool. If you drop the ball and then hit a slice, you're able to change the motion of the serve that you wouldn't normally be able to do. The rules for when we hit a pickleball serve is that we're not allowed to make contact with the ball, and the tip of the paddle is above our wrist. This prevents us from hitting a downward motion that would be illegal in pickleball. But as soon as we drop the ball and then make a swinging motion, we're allowed to make contact with the ball in any way that we choose. So that means we're able to hit slice serves with the paddle tip above our wrist, like this. This is pretty cool because it allows us to hit a slicing drive rather than just a slice that goes upward and then spins. In short, that basically allows us to create more pace on the ball on top of adding that spin. So this is what it looks like. What I try to do is drop the ball from its highest point that I'm able to do. That way the ball bounces as high as possible, allowing me to hit downward as much as possible. The reason this serve is so deadly is because, again, we're adding pace to the ball, but we're able to hit it deep while still adding that spin. A lot of players are familiar with a slice serve, but they're not used to it coming at them with a bit of extra pace. That's why I really recommend dropping the ball and using that high to low motion that's only possible when you drop the ball to hit the slice serve. It's really powerful. I definitely recommend it, so hopefully you can try it out in your games. Those were our 6 strongest pickleball serves that will change your game.
And if you like this video, consider subscribing, and YouTube really thinks you're gonna like this one next.
Yeah,
That
actually,
one.
just for you. We made that for you.
That one's for you.
It was for him. It was for me.